Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. And today I've got to start off with an apology to my regular viewers. Last time we were taking a deep dive into the chart settings features on Thinkorswim charts, and I said we were going to do a part two today, but I'm changing my mind. I'm making an executive decision. I looked out there in our YouTube audience today, and I see hundreds of new faces. So I'm calling an audible here. I'm going to switch to what I consider to be an introduction to how to use Thinkorswim. So this is going to be a guide for the very first time user. How do we download Thinkorswim? How do we navigate it? How do we plan and place trades? Covering some of those essential elements that I think are top of mind for just about every new Thinkorswim user. So if you'll forgive me, we'll have part two for the chart settings next time in the next video. But I think this is going to be a really good one. So I'm going to kick things off by saying hello to all of you who are here for the very first time. It's great to have you here. I also want to say hello to all my veteran returnees. Hello there, Ricebird and LH and TWS and Arindara, Scott, Golden Years, Will, Jimmy43, Eva, Mighty Mouse, Sharon, Ivy, on and on that list goes. Welcome to everybody. I also want to say, thought it was kind of funny. Taylor chatted in, said, Cameron, I'll be listening to you while I'm installing a shelf. So be extra descriptive today. I'll do my best. I always try to go at a pace that everybody can follow. But I also want to say for those of you that are watching on the recording after the live stream has concluded, enjoy the presentation, but be aware that you're invited to join us in the live stream if you'd like to be here. This is a Wednesday webcast series, and we kick things off promptly at 2 Eastern time. We'd love to have you here in our live stream audience. I also want to let our live stream audience members know that we have a special guest here as a treat for you. Kevin Horner is going to be hanging out in the chats. He's going to be addressing any questions that I can't get to just during the flow of the presentation. Kevin and I have been working together for years, so he's a great resource to have there. Thanks for having my back there, Kevin. And Kevin and I would like to also issue an invitation to everybody watching. If you have an account on X, you should be following your favorite Schwab presenters there. It's the best place to connect with us in between the live streams. You can find Kevin on X at Kevin Horner CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. But let's get into this discussion. Really, first-time user's guide to how to use Thinkorswim Desktop, how to get set up and how to get started, okay? As we go to the platform, of course, we need to be aware of the risks associated with trading and investing, so bear this important information in mind. All corporate or issuer names and market data shown are for illustrative purposes only and are not a recommendation, offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research, and investing involves risks, including the loss of principal. Okay, so with that important information communicated, let's set an agenda for today's discussion. So yeah, this is the first time user's guide to the Thinkorswim desktop platform. So I first of all want to show where to download it, how to get logged in, then we'll get into the general navigation of the platform. And then I'm going to focus on some of the highlight features that I think are really top of mind questions that just about every new Thinkorswim user has when they first load up the platform. What is it? How does it work? So I'm going to cover as much as I can. Don't be intimidated if you don't remember everything that I show. This webcast is being recorded. It'll be posted to our playlist after the webcast is over if you need to go back and revisit it. But before we're done, I want to show you some additional resources to support continued learning, both about the Thinkorswim platform, but also just about broader market concepts in general, as well as maybe even specific trading and investing strategies. Lots available for you out there, all of it free of charge. But let's go right to how do we download this thing first? And as we do that, maybe I address the question: what in the world is Thinkorswim? Why do we care about it? Well, Thinkorswim is software, and it's designed to provide tools and resources for traders and investors, and it works as a really good companion or complement to the tools and resources that are available on Schwab.com. So that's it. It's software that can be downloaded free of charge from within your Schwab online account. And then you can just log in using your Schwab username and password. So let's show you where to download this software. So here I am in a demonstration Schwab online account, and all we do is go up here to the Trade tab, and from there it almost leads itself. So you go to the trade, click on Thinkorswim desktop right here. Then there's going to be a big blue bar as we scroll down just a bit. There's a big blue bar that says learn how to enable Thinkorswim. So just click on that, follow the on-screen prompts, and it'll walk you through what Thinkorswim is and how to download it. Now, once you've downloaded the software, it's going to create an icon on your computer's desktop, and it looks kind of like this. The splash, also known as the Thinkorswim Astro Splash, if you want to sound fancy. But that's what the desktop icon is going to look like. Or you can just look for Thinkorswim in your computer start menu. But you launch Thinkorswim, and that's going to bring up a login screen that looks like this, just a pop-up on your screen, all right? And this is where the panic might set in. Oh no, I don't have a Thinkorswim username and password. You don't need one. You just need your Schwab login credentials. So you just log in with the same username and password, and that'll launch the software. But I do want to say there's an important thing to choose first before we put in that login information. Right down here at the bottom, Thinkorswim is asking, hey, Cameron, are you trying to access your live portfolio and actually manage your positions? Because you can do that using Thinkorswim. Buy and sell your stocks, make portfolio decisions. Yes, that can be done through the Thinkorswim software, but also you can check your balances, stuff like that. But in any case, there's also a paperMoney version of the software. And this is a real benefit to not just users of Thinkorswim, but to anybody that's trying to learn a new strategy and trying to do it with, without any real skin in the game. That paperMoney is basically a practice account. It's preloaded with $200,000 of play money, and you can experiment with new tools, plan and place trades, see how they play out, all of it in a no-risk environment. So yeah, that you can access just right there. People have asked me, how do you download, how do I access my live accounts? You do it right here. Log in with username and password. paperMoney right here, okay? So what I'm going to be using today, I've already pre-launched paperMoney, so let's go to that. So let me bring up the paperMoney. Notice up here in the upper left-hand corner, it says PM, stands for paperMoney. This is a simulated trading environment, and already my blood pressure has gone down. We now know no real risk. But the nice thing about paperMoney versus the live platform is that there is a heavy overlap. They look almost exactly the same. I'm tempted to say exactly the same, but there can be little tiny distinctions here and there. But yeah, the vast majority of the tools on the live platform are available here for practice on paperMoney. J-Lo says, can you switch back and forth? You need to relog in. That's a great question. Yes, you can switch back and forth. Let me show you what we might do. First of all, before I do that, I'm going to make a preference change here. What you'll notice is if you watch a lot of our videos, some of our presenters, their Thinkorswim looks white, and other ones, it looks black. They have just a preference for what the background looks like. My preference is for that lighter background. So don't panic if you see a Thinkorswim that doesn't look like yours. What probably happened is we've gone up here to setup. We've gone to change the application settings, Thinkorswim being the application, and I'm going to change the look and feel to light. So it's going to look more like this. Another thing, while we're here making application settings changes, my personal preference is for a font size that is large. If you don't have great vision, maybe we zoom in a little bit further, go to a larger. It's just going to make everything on the platform bigger, but it can be a little bit crowded especially if we have kind of a smaller monitor. But I'm going to switch. I'm going to make sure this is large in my case and click apply. There we go. So this is why I brought this up when the question came in. Can you switch back and forth between live and paperMoney? The way that I keep a distinction between those two, because yes, you can log into both, but there's a risk when we're doing that. And that is, if we're doing both at the same time and we're switching back and forth, we might think we're placing a practice trade and actually place a real trade. So my preference is to have the white background at all times on paperMoney, black background at all times on live, and therefore I don't make that mistake. It's too obvious. All right. So yeah, to launch a second session, in other words, if we're already in paperMoney, if we want to launch live, we can just go to the Thinkorswim icon. I right-click on it and then select Thinkorswim-Schwab again, it'll bring that same login screen back up. And then we can just log into live. And we can actually change the, Eva, you like that? Yeah. Right here, it allows us access to some of those settings again. Before I even log in, I can switch this one to dark. And then just make sure I log into live. And then I'm looking at two very different looking platforms. No question in my mind which one I'm using. So I'm going to close that out. So William's asking questions. Now, William, you've asked another legitimate question. There are actually 3 versions of Thinkorswim. I can't cover all 3 in one discussion. I can't address questions about the other 2. It would just complicate things. But there is the software, and that's what I'm going to be demonstrating today. It's known as desktop. There's also a mobile version for your phone. That's nice and handy, but it's different. Just, with applications, they're streamlined versions of something bigger in most cases, right? But there's also a web-based version, like you go to Thinkorswim on the internet, not have to download software. You don't have to have your phone as long as you have a browser. But web and mobile are different. This is about software. Now, we do have education about those other platforms, and I'll show you where to access education at the end of the presentation, but you're asking really good questions. All right, so now let's acquaint ourselves with the general navigation. Now that we've downloaded, we've logged in, we even know how to set some of the settings up, and we've determined how we can access even both live and paperMoney at the same time. The login generally is we look at the left column. These are what we call gadgets. And then we look at the tabs across the top. And those could take us to just about anywhere on the Thinkorswim desktop trading software. So what I'm going to do is just go sort of left to right, top to bottom, and cover as much as I can, but I'm going to be fairly selective. I can't cover everything. I'm going to try to cast as wide a net as I can to be as broadly applicable to as many viewers as possible. But obviously, there are going to be more things that could be learned, tools that could be explored in greater detail, and I'll show you where you can do that after the webcast is over. Okay? Khalid says, does it work on a Mac? Yes. When you download, it'll actually ask you, are you using a PC or are you using a Mac? Yeah, you just use the Mac download. All right. So first of all, where do we find our account balances? Big question. It's up here in the upper left where it says account info. Bit of a mouthful here, net lick and day trades, and then also cash and sweep vehicle. This is the way I think about this. You're not able to see my balances because I've set this on privacy settings. Just a regulatory requirement. But in any case, net lick means if I were to liquidate my entire portfolio, all my positions, all my cash, how much is all of that worth right now? So this, you might think of this as the total account balance. So if let's say you had $200,000 in investments plus cash, that would be your net lick value. So let's say just imagine $200,000 here. Now in that, let's say that there's $50,000 in cash. Well, that's our cash and sweep vehicle. And you'd see that value displayed right here instead of a series of stars. Okay. So with that, I think that's one big thing that everybody wants to know. How do I check my balances? Now let's get acquainted with the tools across the top. Right here will be our internet connection. I'm connected. This tells me whether I have real-time or delayed data, date and time. Right here is the navigation among and between different accounts. So for example, if I click on this, you can see I have an example IRA account. This is just paperMoney. These are pretend accounts. When you set this up, when you log into paperMoney, it immediately provides a fake IRA account and a fake margin account for practice. Both of those are pre-funded with $100,000 of paperMoney. So I can navigate between the two, but if this were my real account, I could just navigate among all of my real accounts there. Now, as we go further to the right, we're gonna wind up on what we call the home screen. When you very first log in for the very first time, you'll find yourself on this screen, and it has some interesting information. I'm not going to go too far into these tools today. You can explore those on your own. But for the most part, I think that most users of Thinkorswim would consider their home screen to be the monitor tab. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We have messages from Thinkorswim can be found right here. You can access support for Thinkorswim right here, and you can enter chat rooms for other, involve other Thinkorswim users right there. But support, you could start like a chat with a Thinkorswim technician, basically. Now, finally, you've seen that we can make broad setup application changes up there using that gear icon. Now, that's it for that top row. Here's what I'm going to do. Let's come over here to the left and explore this area that we call the gadgets. And then I'm going to move through some of these primary tabs here. There are going to be a couple that I'm going to leave for a future demonstration, or I can just show you one that's already been pre-recorded. I'm not really going to get into the Analyze tab. I'm not really going to get into the Scan or the Market Watch tabs, right? But you'll notice as I hover over each of those, there are going to be sort of subsections or sub-tabs for each one. So the navigation is going to be pretty similar to what you see like on your Schwab online account. You just point at a tab, you make your choice of a sub-tab, it takes you right to that section. If you ever feel like you've been poking around, you've gotten deep into the labyrinthine corners of Thinkorswim, no panic. You can get right back to basically start by clicking on monitor or trade or whatever. All right, so let's get acquainted with these gadgets over here in the left column. So okay, Dave says, is this correct? paperMoney only trades during normal market hours, no extended hour trading. That's right. Yep. Yeah. So like I said, there are going to be some distinctions between paperMoney and the live platform, but really, for the most part, pretty good introduction to not just the platform navigation, but also you can experiment with strategies and trades. And Eva says, Cameron, there's a survey today. Thank you, Eva. So I'm going to hit pause on the presentation for just a moment, because this isn't an everyday thing. Sometimes we get surveys, sometimes we don't. But for those who are here in the live stream audience, there has been a survey link that's been added to the chat window. So if you would do me this favor, just click on that survey link and then just move it aside so you can fill it out after the webcast is over and you can give me some honest feedback. I need to tell you something about that survey. It is a really short survey, 2 multiple choice questions. And then there's also a comments box and a suggestion box. So you can just go click, click, and you're done with the survey, or fill in some comments and some suggestions. What I will say is if you take the time to fill out that survey, that data and those comments get sent right to me and to our management team. So I will be eyes on. I read through that stuff. It definitely helps. It's never a wasted effort. Okay. Thanks for doing that for me. Thanks for the heads up there, Eva. But let's get acquainted with these gadgets over here. So first of all, I want to tell you, what in the world are gadgets? Well, when I think about this, I have a brother who's an artist. And so when he gets ready to draw, he has his main drawing area. And so think of this as like the trader's main operating area. And then he has all of his tools off to the right, all of his pencils and his erasers and his paints and whatever else. They're off to the right there, taking up a smaller space. That's basically what these gadgets are. They're tools that a trader or investor might want quick access to while they're not losing the rest of their sort of workspace. And these gadgets are customizable. So the trader gets to choose which tools they have. So you'll notice for me, I have a calculator up here. I have a live news stream, and I can just type in symbols to see which stock we're going to see the stories for. I have watch lists of stocks either from Thinkorswim or that I've created myself that I can quickly access there. And finally, I have a scratch pad where I can make notes to myself or maybe to my audience. There we go. But these generically are referred to as gadgets. And we can customize these gadgets. You'll notice there's a little menu icon. When you see 3 dots and 3 dashes on Thinkorswim, that means there's a menu of actions that can be taken. And among the actions that can be taken for the existing gadgets is we can detach the gadget, we can separate it from the rest, and then we can use that as a sort of a separate window. So like I just detached my calculator, I can now slide that over to my side monitor or back. I can close that detached gadget out. I can also switch to a different gadget, lots of different gadgets to choose from, or I can delete that gadget. I'm not going to delete my calculator. I like it there. Now I can also add other gadgets down here at the bottom. So how about, let's click on the plus sign, and how about we use the quick chart? So I'm going to select quick chart. And what this does is it gives us quick access to a little chart. that's going to stay there while I use the rest of the platform. And I can minimize it by clicking on the little caret here. When you see an arrow pointing to the right, that means that there is more. That's sort of the hide unhide function on Thinkorswim. So when we see an arrow pointing to the right, it means if I click on that arrow, it'll now point down and show additional information. So Chuck, you saw how to add that gadget down there. We can also reorganize the gadgets by clicking on the little gear icon. Let's say I wanted my quick chart up closer to my calculator. I just click and drag that up under the calculator, and there it is. Now it's up here, second in line. The account info up here in the upper left, that's pretty important stuff, so that just always stays there. All right, so those are the gadgets, and it's nice to have access to those tools quickly. We don't always need them. And unlike my brother, who's kind of stuck once he's put his tools next to him, he can't just sort of swipe them off his desk onto the floor. I can hide my gadgets. Let me click on this margin. Notice the little arrow here. That's a hide unhide feature. So I'm going to hide the left column. Just don't need those gadgets right now. If I need them again, I can unhide it. There we go. So I'm going to leave the gadgets hidden for the rest of this presentation. And let's get acquainted with some of these additional tabs. I'll go as deeply as I can, but still staying as broad as possible so it's as broadly applicable to as many people watching as we can. But yeah, it's going to require, I'd love to show you every feature on Thinkorswim, just can't do it in one 45-minute presentation. But a common question, Dr. Asha Tyson says, is this being recorded? It certainly is. Yep, this one's being recorded. The vast majority of our webcasts are being recorded, and then they're posted to our YouTube channel. So I'm gonna show that. I typically show it more toward the end of the presentation, but I think this is a good question. Do yourselves a favor. I can see about 1,000 people watching the live stream right now. That means a ton of you have not yet subscribed to our Trader Talks channel. Do yourself a favor. It doesn't cost anything to do this, and it only takes a second. I'm going to go to the Trader Talks channel, but basically you can subscribe by going down in the lower right-hand corner of the video stream right now. Click on the subscribe button, or go down below the video stream and look for the word subscribe. Click on that. It only takes a second. It doesn't cost anything, but this is where we house our access to our live streams, but also our previously delivered webcasts are then housed as videos, and they're organized according to topic by series. So here's what I'm talking about. You just go to YouTube. Now that you're a subscriber, thank you. Go to Trader Talks Schwab Coaching Webcasts. That's what you'll look for on YouTube. And right here on our homepage, basically, you can go to our playlists. You can join our live streams right here, but I'm going to go to playlists, and I'm going to scroll down. And as I do, you'll notice there are all sorts of different topics that are covered. These are weekly webcast series. Mine just happens to be all the way down at the bottom. There I am, getting started with Thinkorswim, so I can view the full playlist. And this is a spoiler. This one I had sort of socked away for the end of the presentation, but I'm going to show it to you now. Since I'm not going to be able to cover everything about Thinkorswim today, I've actually previously recorded 8 lessons about Thinkorswim, about the individual elements of the platform. And this is basically lesson 1. So if you're here live, or if you're watching this, you don't have to do lesson one again, okay? You can just move right on to lesson 2 of 8. And then we just go deeply into the monitor tab. Lesson 3 is more about the trade tab, placing orders of all types. Lesson 4 is using the charts tool. Yeah, okay. So there we go. Yeah, make sure that you're subscribed. But let's get back to the Thinkorswim desktop. And let's talk about this monitor tab. So this is where, if a trader is wondering, hey, Cameron, where do I go keep an eye on my current positions? Where do I monitor my current trades and my current holdings? That's the monitor tab. So it just, anywhere that we happen to be on the platform, we just click on monitor, and here we'll find both today's trade activity and our current, what we call the position statement, the positions that we hold. So today's trade activity shows us the stuff that we've done. If we've canceled any orders, we can see that right here. Here's an order I put in just for an example. Before the webcast started, I put in an order to buy 100 shares of Ford, and then I immediately canceled it. So it's showing up here. I can see that in our canceled orders. Any orders that were filled today, will be shown right here. Build orders. Hey, I bought 100 shares of Ford, paid $12.18, and there are those shares right down below. Above that, I can see my working orders. Sometimes a trader will put in a trade. Let's say we own, for example, some shares of Boeing, and we have a stop in place at a 209 level. There's that stop order waiting for Boeing to maybe fall down to 209 and then sell those shares. Got to say, anytime I mention a stop's not a guarantee of a precise sale price. But anyway, there we can see our current trades. If we want to see things that we've done historically, I'm not going to go into this today, but we can go to what's called the account statement. Yeah, just like your bank statement, you check that for, trades and orders that you've done in the past. You'd go to the account statement for that information. This is all current stuff. So down at the bottom, I can see my current holdings. So for example, I have a position Ford, I have a position Colgate-Palmolive, I have 3M. I can see which sector those are in. I can see the quantities that are held, the price that was paid, the current. When you see mark on Thinkorswim, that means the market price. So for example, I bought some Ford this morning for $12.18. It's worth $12.22 or $12.23. Hey, so I'm up a little bit on those shares today. So this shows me my market value change for the day, the profit or loss since I opened the trade, and the profit or loss just for today. Right? Down at the bottom, we'll also see overall profit or loss year to date. Obviously, with my privacy settings set up, you'll just have to envision that and show us how much we have in available dollars for trading like cash. Okay? So all of that can be found just with a quick glance at the monitor tab. Now that's just a high-level introduction, but still, we're answering a lot of those big questions. Where do I go find my current positions? This is where we find that. And JD says, this is maybe something I wasn't planning to get deeply into, but JD asks a good question. How do I cancel a row? Maybe I don't know which one you're talking about. Maybe I want a different arrangement here, or I don't need, who knows, the sector. That can be done by clicking on little gear. When you see a gear on Thinkorswim, it means this thing is customizable. So right here, I could remove the sector, and let's say instead we wanted to see, what do we want? Let's say anything. Anyway, yeah, let's say you're an options trader and you want your delta, for example. We add that as a column and click OK. So that creates a new column here. There's delta. And if you happen to have an option position, yeah, I do have an option position right there. That'll show me the delta for that position. Somebody just went, I don't know what options are. I don't know what delta is. That's okay. Purpose there was just to show that these are customizable columns. I'll let you explore that. And the nice thing about Thinkorswim is that we can mess things around all that we want. There's even a reset button on Thinkorswim paperMoney. We can, if we're in paper, we can do all the tinkering we want, make all the changes we want as we're exploring with these new tools, and then even hit reset. We can even change the balances. Haven't figured out how to do that in real life yet, but in paperMoney we can. In any case, obviously change balances by withdrawing or depositing money, but you can do it immediately in paperMoney. Anyway, next up, let's acquaint ourselves with the charts tool. Common question for first-time users is, how do I find charts? How do I change the time frames? How do I do these different things? Find my favorite indicators for charts. Okay, Chuck says, where can we add advanced charting? That's interesting, Chuck, because I actually teach a webcast series on Fridays. It's called Advanced Charting Techniques. So guess what? Make sure that you're subscribed. Go to our playlists. And by the way, if you want to see a calendar of events, you can just go to that homepage. Let me go back there. So you can go to posts right here. So playlists right next to that. If you go to posts, we have made a post that includes a schedule of who's teaching what at which time throughout the week. All right. So let's get acquainted with the charts. And how about, I kind of cheated. I had General Electric preloaded in here. Let's start from a blank slate and start typing in a symbol. I'll just stick with, no, let's put in NVIDIA. How about that? Because that's kind of a weird name stock, right? If we don't know a symbol for a stock, we can actually just start typing in the name. So like I'm just starting to type in NVIDIA, and the system will automatically generate a menu where it proposes, well, Cameron, are you looking for the NVIDIA Corporation symbol? Oh yeah, that's what I wanted. If I'm going to click on that, and that's going to load up my chart here. So now let's see what is available to us as we move around this chart. First thing that we'll see is we have the name of the company. Then we see the current quote. We can see how much that quote has gone up or down in dollar amount or percentage amount right here. I can see the current bid and ask price. Further to the right, if I have a buddy who also uses Thinkorswim and I want to share, maybe I've set up a whole fancy chart and I want to share it with my buddy, I can just click on share. That automatically creates a link that I can then send to them, and they can put it in their Thinkorswim and load up my chart. So that's kind of cool. Further to the right is the Edit Studies Flask icon. Edit Studies is where we would go to add all kinds of technical tools to the chart. So maybe somebody's using their favorite moving average indicator. Now, not everybody watching this webcast is going to know a whole lot about charting, but probably the most commonly used charting tool, this is speculation on my part. I don't have data to back this statement up. It's just been my experience. But probably the most commonly used tool is something known as a simple moving average. So let me click on this little flask icon. That's going to bring up a list of hundreds of potential technical studies or tools that can be added to the chart. And let's flash through that. I could go down in alphabetical order, or I'm just going to type in simple moving average. So I'm going to choose simple moving average here. Let's add that to our chart. And then I can customize that indicator by clicking on the little gear icon. Let's say that our trader is looking at, I don't know, let's say a 50 period simple moving average, 50 days. We click OK, click apply, click OK again. If you're not familiar with moving averages, it's simply, it's a trend line that's generated by using average closing prices over whatever period of time we selected. So this would be over 50 days. This is showing me over the last 50 days, the average closing price of NVIDIA has been $177.50. Now, previously, that average value would have been lower, so that's reflected in the lower portion of this trend line. Over time, those average values change, and it generates this trend line. And for some traders, that may be an insightful indication of trend. It might show potential price floors and price ceilings. But in any case, that's how we might add an indicator. Now, Kevin says, is there a written guide or tutorial I can work my way through? Kevin, yes, there is. I will show you that before we're done. Okay, I'm going to sort of put a pin in that one, come back to it. Next up, we have our chart settings, which allows us to make all kinds of changes. This is what we were diving into when I said at the outset of this discussion that we were talking about the chart settings features. I've been going through these one by one for my normal audience. So we got through a good chunk of those. We were just going to do the rest today. And I decided, no, let's park that. We'll do that next week. Let's talk to the brand new users of Thinkorswim today. But as an example of a chart setting, let's say that our trader likes to see some extra space out here to the right of their chart. By default, the last candle is going to come right up against the right margin. Well, if we go to the time axis, because we're talking about adjusting the amount of time displayed on the chart, I can go to what's known as the expansion area. This is expanding the chart out to the right. Let's just change that to maybe 10. So what this is going to do is add 10 empty bars of space off to the right. If I click apply, you can see, oh, now there's some space there. So if our trader or our investor is, let's say, making drawing lines out into the future, that now projects out beyond, today's trading. Yeah, tons of other settings that I'd be tempted to show you. I'm just going to show you that one as an example. Let's see. Ivy says, if I'm learning how to establish support and resistance, will Thinkorswim generate these for me or help me learn how to do it? Ivy, I think what would be most helpful with that is maybe, here's what you might do. Go to our list of videos. So just go to the Trader Talks channel. And I'm going to type in support resistance. It enters. Hey, what do you know? Who's this guy? 5 ways to identify support and resistance on a stock chart. You might want to check that video out. Okay. There we go. Let's go back to our Thinkorswim, get acquainted with a few more of these tools. Next up is our time frame. Right now we're looking at a 1-year daily chart, so the D stands for the daily candles that are being displayed. But I can switch this from a menu of favorites. Let's say I want to switch this to a 3-year weekly chart instead of a 1-year daily. I can just click on that. Or I can go up and look at a custom time frame. I can set the length of the chart right here and the size of the candles right there. Aggregation period, that's a fancy way of saying candle size. All right, let's go back to our favorites here, though. Switch that back to a 1-year, 1 day. Next up is our style tool. And as I click on this, you're going to see there's a huge menu of things that I could be talking about today. I'm really just hitting the highlights for common questions. But right now, what we're looking at is what's known as a candle chart. Some traders don't need that much information on a day-to-day basis. They prefer the cleaner appearance of, let's say, a line chart. So I can change my chart type from a candle to a line. You can see how it simplifies the chart, which can have potential benefits, but obviously there's a loss of data there. So there are pros and cons. Let me switch that back. Let's go back to our line chart, switch this back to a candle. Next up, we have our drawing tools. All sorts of drawings can be made. Yes, if you're wondering, does Thinkorswim have Fibonacci's? Yes. Does it have arcs and fans? Yes. Do I have the ability to write text notes on my chart? Yes, those are all drawings. So I can go to my drawing tools right here. All sorts of drawing tools, channels, horizontal price level lines, trend lines that can be drawn. These are our Fibonacci tools down below. But let me just show you basically how a drawing is generally made, okay? I'm going to use, let's say, our trend line tool for this example. I'm going to click on this. Now, I could have accessed these drawings as well by going down to this icon down in the lower right. If I click on that, you'll see it gives me access to that same menu. But let's say that our trader here has noted with NVIDIA, it was really struggling to get above about 180, what should we call that, 184? And maybe they want to make a drawing to reflect that. I'm going to click on that and then move over to the right. So this is not a click and drag. It's click once to start making a drawing and then click again to end a drawing. So we position the drawing that way. So let's click that right at about that 184 level. And then, ooh, it looks like our price is kind of pushing up and through it. What some traders might call this it's a price breakout. Could be a trade signal. It's not a recommendation, just an example. Brenda says, can you show a Fibonacci tool? Why not, Brenda? I'll quickly do that. But we need to make sure that we address some of these other tools and features just quickly. Yeah, but our Fibonacci tool's right here. To begin our drawing, we go to the top of a move, go down to the bottom of a move, and click again. That was just very quick. To remove a drawing, you right-click on it and remove that drawing. Right-click. I'm not going to remove that one because I'm going to use that as a trade scenario. All right, so all sorts of other tools that I might be tempted to show today. I can't show everything. Wish I could. But let's just say, let's take it the next step. Let's say that our trader maybe they're intrigued by a breakout like they see on NVIDIA, and they want to go place a trade. Let's make sure that we place a trade before the webcast is over. So where do you think we go to place a trade? Go to the Trade tab. Now, first thing we need to do is make sure that we have the correct symbol up here. So NVIDIA is already loaded for me. We can just type the symbol in there. Thinkorswim, though, instead of looking for a big green buy or a big red sell button, there are lots of different ways to place trades on Thinkorswim. I'm just showing probably what I consider to be sort of the most intuitive one. Come to the Trade tab, type in our symbol, and then to buy shares, we click on the Ask Price. To sell shares, we click on the Bid Price. So I'm going to go to the Ask Price and click on that, and that creates a buy order. And then we just need to customize the order as the trader sees fit. So by default, it'll show an order to buy 100 shares. Let's say we wanted 57 shares, whatever. So this, in order to buy 57 shares of NVIDIA, we could put in a market order if we were willing to pay whatever the market price is. And obviously that carries risks. We might not be thrilled with the price that we ultimately pay. If we want to put in a limit order, NVIDIA is trading around 187.5. Let's say our trader doesn't want to pay a penny more than 188. So I'm going to put in a limit of 188. Then we just click on, notice what I did. Really, that's it for placing the order. Click on the ask price, customize it as necessary, click on confirm and send, and then this brings up a confirmation box. This is our last chance to back away, but there's also this reminder, this is a simulation, not a real trade. I'm going to put in an order to buy 57 shares of NVIDIA with a limit of 188, means that's the most I'm willing to spend. It won't fill at higher than that. It could fill lower than that. In this case, there would not be a commission, but example commissions are displayed here when they're appropriate. And I'm going to send this order off. Now, if I wanted to route that to a different account, I would have just chosen the account up here first. But we just bought 100 shares of, not 100, 57 shares of NVIDIA, and we can monitor the progress of those shares right here. So we're already getting pretty comfortable with the navigation. Now, that's going to be the end of the tools that I personally display today, but I definitely have some resources for you to bear in mind. Number one is if you are interested in learning more about Thinkorswim, there are tools for, because somebody asked about this, is there written stuff that I can work through? Yeah. Go to the Education tab and then to the Learning Center. This, on the Education tab, there are two sub-tabs. Education, which is actually broader market or strategy education. Learning Center is specific to learning the tools of Thinkorswim. And included in that is something known as the Think Manual. So if we go to Think Manual, we can access it either up there in the upper left, or I can click on How to Thinkorswim down here. It's going to take us to a step-by-step guide for using Thinkorswim. Okay? Now, obviously, if you need more help, you can contact us. But I want to show you, finally, the additional resources outside of these live presentations. So first of all, an initial reminder, if you have not subscribed to our Trader Talks channel on YouTube, please do that now. Yeah. Down in the lower left-hand corner, you click on the subscribe button. That doesn't cost anything. It literally only takes a second. But the Trader Talks channel is where we house all of the playlists of completed webcasts. You can join the live streams here, or you can even do, as we've discovered, a quick keyword search and search through our vast library of videos. Anand says, what is ThinkScript? Anand, guess what I would do if I had a question about ThinkScript? Look for webcasts like this series, ThinkScript Studies on Thinkorswim. Now, let me do this for you. I also have a playlist. You noted this earlier. In the playlists, I have 8 lessons that I put together for first-time users, for new users of Thinkorswim. You just go to my series playlist down at the bottom and scroll down a little bit. There are those 8 lessons. You're just about ready to move on to lesson 2 at this point. But I'm also going to include a link. Let me copy this link. I'm going to put this in the chat for the live attendees right now. I'll put the same link in the video description for those of you watching on the recording. But that'll link you to this playlist, and you can just go find these other lessons. Now, the other suggestion I have for you is to make sure that you're following Kevin and me and your other favorite Schwab presenters on X. If you have an account on X, you should be following your favorite presenters there, because it is the best place to connect with us in between these live streams. It's when the camera's off, and it's only on for me about 4 hours a week. Right? The rest of the time, best place to find me is on X. So you can find Kevin on X at Kevin Horner CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. There's my handle. But as an example, I just made a post yesterday about what in the world is this price pattern, and why might some traders have a hesitation to call this an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So we've been having kind of a back and forth there. If you reply to one of my posts, I try to reply right back to you, and I even post what I'm doing on the weekend. All right, Alec, you spent $1 million for this with a wink? Okay, well, subtract $1 million from that, and that is the cost. So, guys, thanks for giving me your time today. This is your final reminder. There is a survey out there in that chat window. If you just click on that survey, just 2 multiple choice questions, a comments box and a suggestion box. And if you fill that out, I read all those comments. I read all that data. It definitely helps. Never wasted effort. Thank you for all the thumbs up. I see still 723 people watching the live stream right now. And it looks like 130 have already clicked that like button. That's a big, it's a pat on the back to your presenter, but it also gives a boost to my video in the YouTube algorithm, helps more people find these discussions like how to get started and set up on Thinkorswim. So everybody, thanks for watching. I hope to see you again next Wednesday. I have other webcasts throughout the week, every day of the week on a range of topics. You're invited to watch those. I'll also look for you on X. Go enjoy lesson 2. But whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.